Hello everyone, and welcome to today's session on SAP FSCM Dispute Management Business Process in S/4HANA. So in today's session, I'll give you a brief overview of the end user business process in the dispute management module, and we'll see how the dispute management module fits into the FSCM ecosystem. Now moving ahead with the course content. So the first, we will be looking into the FSCM overview. This gives us a high-level understanding of all FSCM components and how they work together to optimize the receivables cycle. Then we move to the dispute management introduction. We will briefly look at the purpose of this module and why organizations rely on it to manage customer complaints effectively. Then we'll see some of the benefits of dispute management. I will highlight how these benefits translate into real business value, such as faster dispute resolution and improved cash flows. Then we'll see what all are the methods in which we can create a dispute case. So what all are the transactions from where we create a dispute case in SAP GUI. So I have identified 7 methods from where we can create a dispute case. Then we'll see the integration with financials, which is FI/AR, accounts receivable. We'll also understand how the data flows between FI and dispute management, ensuring accurate AR reporting. Then we'll see the overall SAP flow process. This will help you visualize the entire journey of a dispute case from start to finish. Now let's move ahead with the FSCM overview. Now let us look at the overall FSCM landscape within the SAP system. So in total, there are four core components of SAP FSCM. The first one is collections management. It helps companies chase and manage overdue customer payments. So it ensures that the business stays proactive rather than reactive in managing overdue balances. The second one is dispute management. It handles and resolves customer invoice related complaints. So it brings structure and transparency into resolving billing related discrepancies. The third one is credit management. It controls customer credit limit to reduce the financial risk. So this helps protect the business from potential credit risk and ensures safer sales decision. And the last one is Biller Direct, a self-serving portal where customer view and pay invoices online. So this not only reduces operational overhead, but also empowers customer with more control. So generally, these four are considered as the core components of SAP FSCM. They are tightly linked with the accounts receivable module within the FI, and there are other modules as well in FSCM like treasury and risk management, in-house cash, BCM, and others. So that we will cover in the separate session. So in this course, I have covered only the dispute management end user business process. So I have segregated the dispute management module into two parts. The first being the configuration, which is already posted into the Udemy. This is the end user process. So SAP consultants or SAP freshers can go for the configuration course, and SAP key users can look into the dispute management end user business process. Now let us understand the dispute management module in detail. So we'll start with the introduction of dispute management. Dispute management is used to resolve and manage customer billing disputes efficiently, ensuring smoother customer relationship and accurate financial reporting. It provides complete documentation and tracking, which maximizes the success rate for recovering disputed funds. It offers real-time visibility into every dispute case, its owner, status, and pending tasks. It improves cash flow, reduces manual tracking, and strengthens customer trust. So dispute management replaces scattered email, manual Excel tracking, and inconsistent follow-ups. It gives every stakeholder from AR team to sales a unified platform to resolve issues faster. With structured workflows and documentation, it significantly reduces the dispute aging and ensures every case is accountable. Now let us see the benefits of SAP dispute management. It cuts administrative efforts, eliminates manual tracking, and reduces resolution labor cost. It supports varied resolution, efficiently processes write-off, credit memo, and final payment within the dispute case. And it also maximizes the recovery rate. So complete documentation increases the win rate for dispute case. Then it enhances the customer relationship, provides quick, professional, and consistent handling of customer claims and deductions. It enforces consistency, so it standardizes resolution steps across the entire organization. It also improves the data quality, so it ensures accurate real-time reporting on accounts receivable and disputed volumes. So these benefits collectively lead to measurable improvements in dispute cycle time, reduced revenue leakage, and better collaboration across finance and customer-facing team. With transparency at every steps, businesses gain data-driven insight to identify recurring issue and improve internal processes. Now let us look at the ways on which we can create a dispute case. So I have identified 7 methods from where we can create a dispute case into the system. So the first method being the collections management module. So there are two transactions, UDM underscore supervisor or UDM underscore specialist, where the specialist or the supervisor can go into the transaction and create a dispute case from there itself. So from collections management module, you can create a dispute case and you can even view the dispute case from that screen itself. So since collections and dispute are tightly linked with each other, you have that facility from the collections management side to create a dispute case. Second one being the FI accounts receivable module. So the transaction FPL5N from where you view the customer ledger, you can select either single line item or you can club multiple line items into one single case from there itself. So you can select multiple line item and there is a button of create dispute case in that transaction itself. So from there itself, you can create a dispute case and you also have an option to view the dispute case from the FPL5N screen itself. So you need to double click on the line item and you can view the dispute case. It will take you to the dispute management module. Third method is the FB02 transaction. Now FB02 is the change document transaction in which you can change the payment method, payment block, or even text of the line item. So from there itself, you have a button of create dispute case. So the third method is the incoming payment. So whenever you are receiving any incoming payment, suppose I'll give you an example that there is an invoice of $1,000. Customer has only agreed to pay $800 on the line item. Balance 200 they are not willing to pay. So you want to create a dispute case on the balance $200. So you'll go to the transaction F-28, you'll select the line item and then you will make a partial payment. And from there itself, you will have an option of create dispute case. So you can either select the reason code or you can keep it blank as well. And once you create a dispute case, once you post the document of F-28, the balance 200 line item, you will send it to the difference posting. And that difference posting will be created as a dispute case. So from there itself, from the transaction F-28, you can create a dispute case when you are receiving any partial payment. And you can even create a dispute case from the transaction F-32 while clearing two line items. So suppose customer has given us an advance of $2,000, but your invoice is of 5,000. The balance they are not willing to pay. So you have to knock off the 2,000 with your 5,000 line item. So whenever you are knocking it off from the transaction F-32, you can select both the line item and the balance one you can directly create as a dispute case from the F-32 transaction. So the document that will be posted will be created as a dispute case in the dispute management module. It will be linked to a dispute case. The fourth method is from the dispute management module itself. The transaction code is UDM underscore dispute. So from there itself, you can create a dispute case and you can select the line item. It will directly take you to the FPL5N screen. You can execute the report and you can select the line item and add it in a dispute case. And the last method is automatic creation of dispute case. Now this transaction is mainly used when you have some EBS logbox integrated into the system. You can select this transaction and you can, whenever you are receiving any partial payment, you can create it as a dispute case automatically from this application. So the transaction code is FDM underscore auto underscore create, from where you can create an automatic dispute case. So in the system that I will be explaining, I don't have any EBS or logbox setup. So I'll select the open item and I'll show you from that transaction how at a mass level you can create a dispute case. But in order to fully use this transaction, you need to have EBS, logbox and other payment application integrated into your system. So I'll be explaining it into a sandbox system. So I don't have that facility to show you those functionalities. So these are the 7 methods that I have identified from where we can create a dispute case in SAP GUI. We will create dispute case. We'll go in each of the transaction. We'll create some dispute case. Then we will process those dispute cases. We'll make some partial payment. We'll make some full payment to the line item. And then we'll see how the dispute case is closing off automatically. And we will also see the functionality of the auto write-off of dispute case. So in some scenario, some of the amount are non-recoverable. So you are not willing to recover and customer is not willing to pay, and you also don't want to ruin the relationship with the customer. So you want to move it to the bad debt GL. So I have also showed that function from where you can go to a certain transaction. You can run the transaction from the dispute management module that will clear your line item and that will move your balance amount to the bad debt GL. That functionality is also explained in this course. Now let us understand the integration of FI accounts receivable with dispute management. So the first one is customer invoice posting. So this is where the billing document or FI invoice is created, forming the basis for dispute identification. Then we have incoming partial payments, open items which are due from a very long time, or any underpayments. So whenever a customer pays less or leaves item open, the system flags these as potential disputes for review. And after the identification, the dispute case is created. So they will either communicate with the customer that why are you not paying the amount, it has been pending from a very long time, or why have you only made the payment partially. So whatever is the communication, a dispute case is created later on when the customer and the company is not in agreement for a particular item or a particular open item. So there are many ways from where we can create a dispute case manually, and there are certain transactions as well from where we can create the dispute case automatically. Then once a dispute case is created, it is assigned to a processor. So the processor will investigate the dispute case. So the assigned user reviews the issue, checks supported documents, and collaborates with the internal team. Then once the investigation is done, the outcome of the dispute case or the root cause of the dispute case is communicated with the user. The processor identifies why the dispute occurred and communicates the finding or the clarification to the customer. Then the final step comes the resolution and financial posting. So after the financial decision, the system triggers the necessary financial posting such as credit memos, adjustments, or write-off. So if you see, the first step is in the FI module. The second one is also in the FI standard accounts receivable module. Then we move to the dispute management module. Here a case ID is created. Nothing gets posted in the system. Here also there is an investigation going on, so no entries is posted. Here as well, we communicate the outcome of the dispute case to the customer, so no accounting entry is posted. Here in the resolution phase, an accounting entry is generally posted, either a credit memo on the FI side or a auto write-off or a bad debt on the dispute management side. So I've also explained in this course a functionality of auto write-off, in which if you are not able to recover the money, so there is a certain transaction in the dispute management which will be running in the background, and that will automatically close the dispute case as well as it will post the FI document from the dispute management module itself. So this is the integration of FI accounts receivable with the dispute management module. Now let us understand the total process flow of SAP dispute management. It starts with customer reporting a complaint. So the dispute process begins when the customer raises an issue regarding an invoice or payment. So once the issue is raised, the company will create the dispute case in the system. The processor logs the complaint into SAP as a structured dispute case with the relevant invoice detail. So your FI accounting document will get linked to your dispute case. And then we assign the reason for dispute case and category for dispute case. So this helps classify the type of issue and enables accurate reporting and routing. Then we assign processor and define the priority. So the case is allocated to the responsible person and the priorities is set based on the severity of customer importance, whether it needs to be a high priority dispute case or it needs to be a medium priority dispute case. Then the investigation of the dispute case starts. So the processor examines the document, checks history, and collaborates internally to understand the issue. So once the investigation is done, the communication of the investigation is shared with the customer. So the findings are shared with the customer. So the customer, they will either accept the dispute case or they will reject the dispute case or reject the investigation. Okay. So if the customer is okay with the dispute case resolution, the investigation that the team has done, then we hand it over to the collections or the accounting team for the final posting. So if the dispute case is resolved from the customer end and from our end as well, the case is passed to the accounting team to ensure proper follow-ups on the revised balances. Then we move ahead with the financial FI posting, or if you want to post any credit memo. So necessary adjustments such as credit memos are done, are posted in the system, and then we proceed to close the dispute case. So what if there is a scenario where the customer is not happy with the outcome of the dispute case? Then what? So if the customer is not happy, the customer is informed why the dispute case is rejected with supporting explanation, further explanation from the management. Okay. And if the customer is satisfied with that explanation, then we again move ahead and hand it over to the collections for regular follow-up or FI posting. Then we close the dispute case if the customer is satisfied. So what happens when the customer is still not satisfied with the explanation? In that scenarios, we will start the escalation process. So escalation process begins involving higher authority for review. And suppose there is a other team or a debt recovery team in the company, they will look into it, or the upper management will look into the dispute case, and they will find the resolution. So even after that, if there are any unresolved or amount that are irrecoverable, the case can lead to bad debt processing as well. So after the escalation process, if the customer is agreeing to pay, then again we hand it over to the collection. And if the amount is not recoverable, suppose the customer has went bankrupt, then we process the bad debts in the system. And we have some configuration as well in the system from where we process the bad debts. It not only automatically closes the dispute case, but also posts the FI accounting document and clears the open item from the FI side. And once that is done, we proceed to close the dispute case. So I have explained in detail in this course on the end user activity, complete end user activity on the dispute management module. We will see some of the methods from where we create the dispute case, then we will process the dispute case, and we will also navigate the screen, how the screen will look like, what each and every functionality of the dispute management denotes. So we'll also explore the SAP Easy Access menu, and we'll see all the folders that are there in the SAP Easy Access menu. So this was the overall process flow of SAP dispute management in a typical scenario. So that brings us to the end of the presentation. Thank you all for taking the time to attend this session. I truly appreciate your presence and engagement throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, need clarification, or would like to discuss any topics in more detail, please feel free to send me an email. I'd be more than happy to support you. Also, if you are interested in enrolling to this Udemy course and would like to have a discount coupon, just drop me an email and I will share a special discount code with you. So thank you once again and happy learning.